Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm News 8 digital anchor Luke Laster here from the Wood TV live desk on this Tuesday afternoon. Joining me, Elton Knight. He's the new CEO of Founders Brewing. If you're from West Michigan, you absolutely know what Founders is. If you're not, you still probably know what Founders Brewing is. Elton, thanks for taking some time. How are you?
Thanks, Luke. Very well. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. Let's start a little bit about just your background here. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, as you can tell from my accent, I'm actually English, but I've been living here in the U.S. for the last nearly three years, out in Boulder, Colorado. And
tell me a little bit about your transition here into Founders. Who are you replacing? A little bit like that.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm part of the parent company, which is Mal San Miguel. It's a family-owned brewery and company based out of Madrid, Spain. Been working for them for just over 8 years, and the last 3 years I've been working as CEO of Avery Brewing. That's in Boulder, and I really had a relationship with Founders through this parent company. And over the last 3 years, I've actually been a member of the exec team here at Founders. And when Mike, over the last few years, was beginning to prepare for his transition to move on, I was always here and happy to take the opportunity. So it's kind of been like a natural transition, if you will. And loving every day, and it's only been a couple of weeks.
Now, Mike is one of the co-founders of Founders. Tell me about that initial conversation.
Yeah, I mean, Mike and I have a great relationship, same as Dave, who's the other co-founder. Both of them are still part of the company. Dave more in an active role. He's at the brewery every day. And I mean, they've been super kind, super helpful, and also a great inspiration and guidance on how they took the company, on this journey over the last 25 plus years. So, yeah, we shared pretty much door to door at the brewery, and see each other pretty much every day.
So your industry experience with beverages, it's 15 plus years.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about kind of just your history with brewing specifically.
Yeah, I mean, I've been working in spirits and beer pretty much all my life, coming out of university. I was at 13 years in Diageo, which is a spirits company, English company, based in Europe. In marketing, I'm a marketeer at heart. And as I mentioned, 8 years ago, I moved over to the parent company in Madrid called Mal San Miguel, also in marketing, and worked across multiple markets in Europe until finally transitioning here into Boulder with Avery Brewing.
Tell me a little bit about what you have planned here. Like out of the gates, you're already active a little bit right away here in the first few months.
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely building on the legacy that Mike and Dave built over the last nearly 3 decades. I think the starting point for me is that Founders is an awesome company, but it's also got awesome beer, and those provide strong foundations for us to continue building going forward. But the reality is that the market has been changing a lot over the last few years. It's not growing double digit like it used to. There's definitely other segments and categories that are stealing share, if you will, from the craft beer consumer. So, with those strong foundations, what we need to focus on really is getting back to basics, doing fewer things, but with more depth, with more significance, with more impact. Definitely building more of a consumer-driven approach, and I think that's what I can bring to this company is the more brand-building component to what a craft brewer is already doing and doing successfully. And last but not least, I think there's, we're getting much closer to the market, getting a better pulse of what the key trends are in the market, and building those relationships with our key distributors, here in Michigan and in all the other states which we're in.
What did you know about West Michigan and Grand Rapids before coming here, or before figuring all of this out? It has been coined, Beer City, USA out here. Yeah. I would just like to hear what your idea of it was beforehand.
Yeah, well, obviously I knew Founders even before moving here to the US because it was sold in many of the countries I worked in Europe. So definitely Founders and Michigan specifically is a reference for craft beer. I think it's like the 6th biggest state in terms of number of breweries, close to about 400 breweries here in state. So it's definitely a reference point and one of high quality perception amongst consumers. Even in the last 2 or 3 years, as I've been working out of Boulder with Avery Brewing Company, we always looked up to with a huge amount of respect and admiration all the work that Founders and the team here are doing. So it's definitely been not a surprise, if you will, but more kind of proving the point that when I have been here since the last 2 weeks, it really demonstrates what a great brewery it is and what great beer is brewed out of here.
You know, you mentioned getting back to the basics.
Yeah.
What does that entail?
Yeah, I think, craft beer as a segment enjoyed many years of double-digit growth. And I'm talking about over the last 10, 15 years. COVID has accelerated some of these changes we've seen, but the fundamental trend has been one of a general stabilization. And I don't think that in the next few years we're going to see or move back to that kind of growing segment, double-digit segment. So what I mean by that is really focusing on a very product-based approach on building brands, but definitely much more focus and doing fewer things at much more depth and scale. That's going to be much more demanding for the teams to really prioritize and discriminate and do fewer, bigger launches that are much more thoughtful and impactful versus just launching a whole bunch of brands, which traditionally used to be a very sustainable model when you're growing at double digit. No? As the market contracts, you need to be much more competitive, smarter with your launches, and have much more impact, thinking about not just the final consumer, which is critical, but also our distributor and helping us build their business too.
With a business of this scale that's as renowned as Founders, speaking about COVID, what's kind of been the biggest thing that has kind of turned that on its head? I mean, obviously that's impacted industries through service beverages across the board.
Yeah.
But COVID especially at this level, what has that proven in this industry?
No, beer is a social drink.
Right.
A lot of its good occasions are social occasions, and they're definitely being impacted. On-trade consumption, bars, restaurants, that's been wiped off for several, if not most of the months in which COVID has been present. And there's another really big component which craft brewers have, which is our taproom and restaurant. And that's also been hugely impacted. So yes, more people have been spending more time in supermarkets and buying, in chain stores, but that has come at the expense, I think, of where craft brewer was brewing and craft beers were built, which is in the on-trade, in our tap room, through these social experiences, and social occasions.
So keeping production here in West Michigan, as we see, someone like Stevens, he's stepping down here. What is the importance of keeping this business here in West Michigan, this production here in West Michigan moving forward?
Critical would be probably the best way to summarize it. One of the biggest values that craft brands have is their local component, and as the market contracts, I think that variable or that asset, which is it being a local beer, becomes even more and more important when a consumer chooses what beer to purchase. But more importantly, I think there's also a huge piece around the brewery being part of the social fabric here in Grand Rapids and in Michigan, and that's critical to the 500 families who work directly here at our brewery. So as we look to continue to grow the business, the local component is still an important ingredient in this recipe, and this brewery is very important for Grand Rapids and the community here.
So right now you're commuting, back and forth. Yeah. When's the timeline of getting here full time in West Michigan in this area?
Well, so the sooner the better. The sooner the better, I think. Right now I'm commuting in and out every week until school finishes. As soon as my daughter finishes school, we'll be moving over, looking for a house. So probably midsummer, June, around that period.
Nice. And then the last question, a very pressing one here. What is your favorite kind of beer?
Well, Old IPA is now one of my favorites. I got a huge amount of respect for Avery Brewing too, which I'm still the CEO of. But yeah, I'm drinking a lot of Old Ale. Not all day, but nearly every day.
Nice. Elton, we appreciate your time. Is there anything else that you'd like to say, put out there?
No, I invite everybody to come to our tap room here in Grand Rapids and obviously the one that we have in Detroit. And looking forward to sharing a beer at the brewery.
Alrighty, folks. Hey, attached to the stream, it'll take you over to woodtv.com where you're going to be able to watch this stream back again if you missed anything. But for now, this has been a look at the Wood TV Live Desk. I'm News 8 digital anchor Luke Laster. Again, joined by Elton Knight here, the new CEO of Founders Brewing. Elton, thanks for your time. Folks, have a great afternoon. We'll see you around.
Cheers.